Hey, hello, can you hear me?
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
What's up, man? How you doing today?
Oh man, things going good.
Oh, I know it's Monday, man. I ain't know if you had your honeydew list going or what. It was a good time?
Oh yeah, I'm good.
Oh, okay. Okay, you sound, I wanted to, there's something you had said, and it just been resonating with me. That's why I couldn't wait to have this conversation with you. You said, we were talking about Fulton anyway, you said, nobody roots for Goliath. And I'm thinking about the outcome of that fight. And, all of the, people are saying controversy, but it's exposing some people. It's, it's showing you the political side of boxing, and it's showing some double standards, but it's really showing the perception of how people saw that fight. And your response when I text you that message, you said the shove made Loma the favorite. Break that down before I go into these stats and really, elaborate on how we called it when we watched the fight. But speak to that.
Okay, when you look at those two combatants standing side by side, with Haney being the bigger, taller, heavier fighter, for him to push Loma like he did, it has the appearance of someone trying to be a bully to a smaller man. That's the appearance that it had. And after he did that, what this dude trying to be a bully, you know what? I'm gonna root for the smaller man. And see, and in a situation like that, when you have a bigger guy against a smaller guy, and then the bigger guy tends to attempt to be a bully, it kind of makes people say, you know what, I hope this little guy beat him. And it goes back to the phrase that I made: nobody wants to root for Goliath. Nobody wants to root for the big bully. They want to see the smaller man beat the bigger man. And I think that gesture that happened may have changed some people's idea as to how they wanted that fight to end up. I'm gonna tell you the truth. Some people see Loma stop him just for the mere fact of him attempting to be a bully. It just, that whole shove didn't have a good look.
Right.
Because, sometimes guys get up in each other's face, they give a little push. That push tend to have been a little harder. You know what I mean? To me, it was really out of character.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I looked at that. I don't think he should have done that. Not in the way he did it. No. It was a little over the top, a little more extreme than what was necessary if you were just trying to build up some enthusiasm towards the fight.
Yeah, I see your perspective. It made sense because I did get a couple pulses on boxing, and that was the pulse after that weigh-in. I did reach out and join some chats and have some conversations about it, and the energy did kind of shift in Loma's favor. Now, to piggyback off of that, do you think, now I'm gonna get into the numbers, but do you think that, when they say the handshake ain't matching the smile, now with the shove being in place and the energy and the message and I'm mad, you made me wait, did the performance reflect the shove?
Well, I'm going to tell you, the performance of the fight, it was an excellent fight. And the enthusiasm towards the end of the fight, it was classic. You had Haney, who established some rhythm in the first half of the fight, and especially with his body punching. And then towards the latter half of the fight, you had Lomachenko stand in the pocket and applying pressure and combinations and stand on him. That fight had a classic finish. And so many of the rounds were so close that even if one fighter was given the round, he wasn't given the round by much. So therefore, it made so many of those rounds kind of even in a sense. Discretion of the person during the fight as to who won some of those closer rounds. End of the fight, with Lomachenko rallying towards the end, a lot of people tend to want to give it to the fighter that ends the fight stronger. And that often happens even in a round. You can have a round that's pretty much even. But if one fighter comes on towards maybe the last 10 seconds to steal a round, that views heavily in the eyes of who's scoring the fight, who finishes the round. And that also has its presence in scoring a fight, who looks stronger towards the end of the fight. So this fight had all the classic makings that there was going to be some controversy with the scoring, because whatever fighter won the fight, there's an argument for the other side to say, no, my fighter won the fight. If you give it to Lomachenko, you're going to have critics say, well, no, Devin won that fight. He established a good lead. Even though Lomachenko came back, it just wasn't enough. And then you're going to have the Lomachenko fans that say, no, my fighter won the fight. You know, he ended strong. He put the pressure on. He got him in trouble. This fight was so close, and it was such an epic battle, that regardless who you gave it to, there was going to be an argument set up by the other side. It was just that close of a fight. Now, the one judge that had it, 116,
112, Dave Moretti.
I didn't see anything towards that. No, I didn't see that.
No,
the other two judges had a fight that was more close to what I saw.
Yeah, Tim Cheatham and Dave Sutherland. And we scored because on the ones that I was questionable about, I looked over at you and said, who you got? And when you said, I said, yup, that's pretty much who I had. So we had it 113, 115. That's how we had it on the button. Right now, let me tell you, because I think I went over this before, and this is going to tell you, or this is going to tell listeners, if you don't know this will actually tell you how you actually saw this fight. And this is the thing about the numbers, right? This is where the numbers come into play, and this is why I always like to use it and even double back. We used it in analyzing the fight. We said that statistically, this fight is going to be way closer than everybody's giving it. We said that they like to over embellish on this and that, just like you were saying about the verdict. It was an argument either way. It was an argument before the fight. Now, the thing is, in boxing, it's like you actually have accurate punching, which somebody is saying like your punching effectiveness. That means how many times you're punching and actually hitting your target. That's one thing. So that means, well, dang, every time he threw, he hit. So that means throughout the course of the fight, that means you were more 1-to-1, meaning when you went to go hit your opponent, you were more likely to hit him than he was to hit you. And that goes into the plus and minus. In that category, you saw Lomachenko win. It was 124 to 110, meaning that he hit Devin 14 more times. right? So that's one thing. Inside of that, you have the power. Power tends to, if you get up around 41, 42 to 44%, that normally illustrates a domination in power. Haney dominated that with 41.5%. He was right there in the cusp of showing a dominating performance to Loma's 30%. That's just in power, right? But if we out on the streets and we looking at fights, we don't look at it like that. We be like, dang, he hit my man in the face 5 times. Like, those 5 times stick out. And when you actually viewing, you're talking about actual punches, because it was rounds where Lomachenko, when we talk about it was rounds where when he went 33%, it was like 8-5. In round 11, the most dominant round, it was 12-1. So if you were watching that fight, you'd be like, dang, I seen Lomachenko hit this man 12 times. I only seen Devin hit him 1 when it came to power punches. And then that same round, you seen Lomachenko jab Devin 8 times, and you only seen Devin jab him once. So visually, you be like, dang, man, that was like, man, that, like, your eyes and what you see will actually tell you that. In total punches, that was a round where Loma was up at around 40%, and Devin was down around 7%. But the telltale sign, you know what my telltale sign is, the body work. And it was almost like Devin was being astute and listening to the game plan, because in the prediction, I said that it was only 2 blueprints out there already to show you how to beat Lomachenko. Toledo put water in the basement, went to the body. T.O. had success in going to Lomachenko's body. Devin went to Lomachenko's body, and that was like the biggest glaring stat that just stuck out and just said, yeah. I mean, even if you had, at the end of the day, if you had to say, all right, who got it? He outlanded Lomachenko 49-9. That means you seen this big dude punch this little dude in the body 40 more times.
And yeah, and I would say that's accurate, because his body punching stood out, because a lot of the body punches that he hit him with, they weren't necessarily close body punches where they in tight.
Right.
And they just, throwing little 6-inch punches. He was actually hitting them from the outside to the body. So therefore, the vision on the punch is clean. You see it. Right. Yeah, so he did a good job going to the body, and I'm gonna tell you the truth. That might have been the deciding factor in the fight, because of all the punches that were more memorable, it was the clean body punches that you go away from the fight saying, wow, he hit him with some good body shots.
Yep.
So he did some homework.
Yeah, and I always say that body works, a lot of time it's not appreciated. Sometimes it can get ugly, but it's necessary. And this speaks to something else. People say, oh, well, body work is supposed to slow somebody down, and do this and this and that. The fact that I think a lot of people were crazy about Devin's head being popped back like a Pez dispenser, they kind of preferred that, because that could kind of tell you how you view a fight as well. If you're not going to acknowledge, like, ooh, that got to be grimacing, like, oh man, have you ever got punched in the stomach and you see somebody do that like 4 or 5 times and stop you dead in your tracks? Well, Lomachenko came out and said that he thought that he pretty much had it, so he felt like he didn't need to be as active, and so he basically said he kind of let up off the gas. But he had a history of doing that, except for it was a headbutt when it came to T.O. So that was perhaps a fatal mistake, because I truly believe that the way it was so close, that if Lomachenko would have had like 2 or 3 of them popping Devin's head back moments, he would have run the 12th, and they probably would have gave him the fight, or at a minimum, it would have been a draw.
Right.
Because you would have had that lasting impact. If he'd have been there like a dog and Devin been retreating in the corner and he popping his head back and ding, 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 and he jump up and he raise his hands, that would have sold it. But when you have the belts It's your job to go out and take it. Now, although if I had to say, when it came down to somebody showing a glaring dominance over the other, I would have to say there were times where Loma completely dominated Devin. For him to be that size, he completely controlled the ring. I mean, using his ring generalship, had Devin in retreat mode. He was attacking aggressive. He was getting down. So he showed more moments where he was dominating. I just think that, remember, it got to a point where I said, Loma's he's behind in this one, man. I was like, man, he putting himself at a disadvantage right now. He got to do something. And it was like shortly after that is when he kind of cranked it up. But it was that them first, what I would say, it was them first. He had a moment of brilliance in the third by the numbers, because everybody say that's a controversial. The first eight, it was like, man, it was like, yes, he had more dominating moments, but he allowed Devin to like kind of impose his will. And being how Devin fights, he did what he needed to do as far as put them rounds in the bank. And in the prediction, I said, man, pretty much the first quarter of this fight is gonna pretty much tell you what happened. And in the first quarter, I had Devin winning 3 out of 4 of them rounds. So,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's why I like using the numbers, because it keeps me up the eye test and all that, and all the, these numbers, and looking at them have me more even killed as far as my expectation in the fight. And I think we did a pretty good job assessing it and how it was. You could flip a coin depending on, if you like ranch, I like blue cheese. You could do that, but the numbers do kind of tell. And I was seeing robbery. Did you see anything about? I was like, no, I didn't see a robbery. You know what I'm saying? Did you see a robbery?
No, it was a close fight. This fight was a type of fight that whoever you were rooting for, you were maybe a little biased towards the scoring. Those that were for Haney believe Haney won the fight. Those who was for Lomachenko believe Lomachenko won the fight. It was definitely a close fight. This fight, arguably, if it was called a draw, I don't think it would have been too many people disappointed about the outcome that's disappointed about it right now.
Right.
Because this fight was probably the closest thing to a draw that you can get.
Right.
Either way, it was close.
Yeah,
it was close.
Andre Ward kind of said that. And so following up on that statement that you had said when you said nobody roots for Goliath, I asked myself, I said, did David slay Goliath? And I say, no, he didn't slay him, but he made a hell of a good attempt, man. He made a good account of himself. And then I also put up moral victory. I believe that, a lot of people don't believe in moral victories, and I'm not handing out any moral victory awards. I think that the performance that Lomachenko, put out there, the effort that he gave, the moments of brilliance that he showed, he actually satisfied the appetites of the fans that were rooting for him, and people that, kind of like the underdog, because he was the underdog, or the smaller guy, or the David. Like, he did kind of satisfy them. It was just, man, a little bit more. If it was just a little bit more, he could have pulled it out. So I say, man, walking away from that kind of fight, Loma, he don't really have nothing to hold his head down. But I won't, as far as trying to petition and get scorecards reread and all that, it was close enough to where he shouldn't hold his head down, but the judges got it right. Even though it was one, Dave Moretti, even though he got it, he didn't get it so right, but they got it right, and to close it out, we saw Shakur, because we about that ceremony. You know what I'm saying? We like that ceremony, like when the big fish got in there and said what he said about, saying that WBO strap and what he wanted to do. We saw Shakur get in the ring, and we saw Devin and Bill get out the ring, and we heard from Shakur. What was your take on that whole thing? Was you expecting more from the ceremony, or did you think it was a moment missed there where they could have got the same Loma Devin kind of footage, or what?
They could have, but I'm going to tell you, I think that Devin didn't want to go into a back and forth with Devin. I think at the end of that fight, he was suffering a little bit from battle fatigue, okay? And I don't believe that he was ready to go into a one-on-one with Shakur. You know, I think after he got the victory, he was ready to get out the ring and get some rest. I don't think he was ready to go into another potential fight. You know, I just don't think he was up for it. I think he wanted to get out the ring, relax, and get ready for, you know, the little post-fight, you know, conference. I don't think he wanted, you know how sometimes, man, you have a rival and then you always arguing with this rival. You know what I mean? But at a certain point, you see this rival and he come up and then you just say, man, look, I don't even feel like your stuff today. You know? And that's the impression I got the way he got out the ring. It's like he looked at me like, man, I don't even feel like dealing with this dude. So I'm going. That's where, you know, that's the impression that I got. Because he was quick to get into the ring with Loma. And Loma talked to him. But when it was his time to do it, he just gave me the impression that, look, I ain't got time for this dude, not right now. Maybe later we talk, but I don't feel like dealing with him now. That's what I saw.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point you made, because you know, I'm glad, you know, I'm glad you put it out there, because sometimes when I put out these I call them hard truths, you know, a lot of times people try to insinuate that I have hate in my blood, but I'm like, man, I don't have any stock in haterade. You know, I just call it how it is. And like you said, Loma had just did his little battle with Jermaine Ortiz, who a lot of people arguably say Jermaine Ortiz won that fight. A lot of people are coming out saying that, but he had his thing and he gave Devin Haney the time of day. He gave him a moment. He made a little joke about him looking like a heavyweight, but he gave him his moment. So, you know, I think it's a telltale sign of things to come, and I think Devin had best laid plans. I mean, I had already believed that they are not going to jeopardize their reputation at 135. Right now, it's clean, it's pristine. He got a Hall of Famer that they be saying they saying that Loma gonna be a Hall of Famer or whatever. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna say he is, and he got him on his resume. And so right now, unless it's for that big old bag with Tank, where they, you know, basically the offer I can't refuse, the big payday like Ryan got, like him, and, you know, unless it's gonna be something like that, I think that the young man is going to 140 to those shark infested waters that I call the road. I think he's actually going to, I think he's waiting on the winner of Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor, which is coming up soon. And a little birdie came out and said that Bob had already re-signed Devin like 2 nights before the fight. Multiple sources came out and said it. That's not breaking news, but they already re-signed him. And it don't look like he wanted to give Shakur that moment, even though Shakur is the mandatory. So if Shakur, if two things can be true at the same time, Shakur is the mandatory to the winner, but because he's going to 140, he's going to have to make other plans, which I think Shakur might wind up fighting Jermaine Ortiz, because Jermaine Ortiz keep barking up that tree. But if he were to take that one other step that we said with Tank, after seeing what you saw with Loma, putting Devin in there with Tank, like, you know, next, what's your take real quick on that?
Well, Devin gonna have to do a better job at fighting from the outside. Okay, the same way he did with Kambosos, the way he stayed on the outside and used that jab to keep that distance. He wasn't able to keep that distance against Lomachenko. There were times when he threw the jab and he moved, but Lomachenko was able to elude that jab and get into the inside and make a fight of it. Yeah. If he cannot keep Tank on the outside and he allows Tank to get in the inside and to battle the way Lomachenko was able to do, I don't think he can win a fight with Tank fighting it the way he did with Lomachenko. I just don't think he can. Tank is just a tremendous puncher, and Tank is going to hurt you either to the head, to the body. So he would definitely have to keep more distance.
Let me tell you this, man. Lomachenko out-jabbed Devin 29-20. 29-20. And one jab to the body was from Haney at 1. But yeah, that jab would be a factor, definitely with Tank. But, you know, I think that being a shorter guy and knowing how to, you know, Tank is a master at distance where he can cover a wide range in a short period of time with a lot of power. And I seen a video where his coach is basically saying he ain't ready. Coach Calvin, he called it just like he said it, just like we said. We thought I thought that they was gonna rob Devin. I was about to say, man, I thought they were about to say in the new. I thought they was. I don't know why I felt like that, because I had my scorecard the way I had it. You know what I'm saying, with Devin up the same way the judges had it. But he said, I'll tell you one thing. They ain't ready for Tank. Neither one of them. And I was like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm a little biased when it comes to Tank, but I'm like, man, I seen, man, when you look at how close these was, and again, looking at these numbers, this was a very, very close fight. 124-110 in total punches by Loma. 29-20 winning in the jabs by Loma. And 95-90 in power punches winning by Loma, with Devin having the 49 body punches to the 9 by Loma. So, I mean, if you imagine, Tank don't remember. Lomachenko was 0.2% behind Tank in being the most accurate power puncher. If Loma can land on you at 30%, and Tank don't throw as much, but he's more accurate, oh, them numbers don't look too good. So I think that the defensive, I think that there was a level of humility. I think that, you know, that fight that Devin had to go through, because I mean, people are saying, man, he had to go through the fire, and yeah, I think he said himself he had to go through the fire. Yeah, he went through the fire, but I think that adds some wrinkles. You know what I'm saying? When you in combat and you get a victory like that, a hard-fought victory, a close one like that, most of the time you learn something from it. You grow from it. You have something on film that you can go by. So he does have some things to clean up. And hopefully, you know, we'll continue to get the big fights. And I wanted to tell you that this right here, what happens in Devin's next move, it lines up with the Naoya and Fulton conversation, but I'm not going to put too much on the plate today. I'm going to save that for either tomorrow or the next day, and that's what I'm going to come back to you with.
Okay. Listen, one thing before we end this one. Let's say, for example, Devin agrees to fight Tank next, okay? Do you think it would be feasible for Devin to claim the A side and demand more money for the fight, because his belts will be on the line?
Nah.
Against Tank, or do you think they should look for an even split?
Nah, he ain't gonna have it right, because the motto is, it's just like PBC. It's like they're not gonna change their whole business model and stop them from what they just did, especially when it come to Tank. Tank just did something that Canelo couldn't even follow up with weeks later. Like they're not gonna budge on that. It's like, all right, you want to fight? All right, Tank is still gonna be the A side. Everybody knows that. Like, that's not gonna make. Devin even knows that. He even knows that. So it's like, they might go back and forth about, some things like, I don't know if they would say ring size. Maybe that might be a point. You know what I'm saying? They might go back, but numbers wise and gate and pulling, they're gonna wait for these numbers to come out, and that's gonna validate how they get down, because it only makes sense if they're, if the money makes sense in order for them, because it is size of the street, especially with Devin re-upping. I think Bob is now, he's trying to, he's really getting into the pay-per-view, because that was Loma's first pay-per-view, Devin's first pay-per-view. So the numbers will make sense, but I don't think he's gonna be too greedy. He don't really have time, because Tank can go ahead and be like, all right, then I'll go ahead and give me another one, and you can see my numbers go up and your numbers go down, almost kind of like how Bud did with Earl. When Earl was like, all right, if you want next, then skip the line 60-40. You know what I'm saying? And Bud was like, it's 50-50 or nothing. And Earl was like, all right, then I'm getting back to, spanking. I'm about to get these other straps. So, I think he knows that. I think they know that Tank is that guy. He has that leverage. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't think he'll do that. And after all this, man, I think they kind of want to go with that image that I was saying, that wholesome image that I know my worth, I'm established, you know what I'm saying? They don't got to do all that extra stuff. They can get it done, though, if they want it.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how would his ego feel not being considered the A side and owning all four of the belts, all four of the major belts? It is, it seems that his ego will make him feel, because he's got the four belts, that he is the man to beat. Okay, even though Gervonta Davis is a tremendous force in the lightweight division, but will Devin's ego take him to a level where, no, I'm the man in this division? Because every fighter thinks he's the best, and then he's got an argument, I got all four of the belts.
Well, I'll put it like this. It was already on record that Tank didn't, he was like, man, tell Kambosos I'll fight him, but he can keep them belts. So they already know, they already know that Tank can continue doing whatever he doing without them belts. And Devin actually knows that, and one of his biggest fans actually, they already said, they have him on, they talk to him every day, they you know what I'm saying, they BFFs. He's saying that basically Devin already know he the B side. So that's not, if they want that fight, because what his biggest fan is also saying is, if Devin stay right there at 135 and he don't fight Shakur or Tank, he's calling him a duck, and that's his biggest fan. Jumbo knee pads. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
he gotta look at 135. He's gotta fight one of them.
Yeah. So I think it's 140 for him, but we'll see. You know what I'm saying? I as I see stuff and hear stuff, I keep my ears to the streets. You know what I'm saying? Trying to keep a pulse on everything. But I'll send it your way. But be ready for that anyway talk, because I can't wait. I've been looking up some stuff, can't find anything, but I came across something, and we're gonna get that anyway and Fulton convo going ASAP.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good to me.
All right, then. Well, enjoy your evening. I will be hollering at you either tomorrow or the next day.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Take care now.
All right. Peace. Well, that was my old head K talking some of that Devin Lomachenko talk. So thanks for everybody who tuned in. I stick with us. We do a fair assessment on everything. We call it straight down the middle. We might have our little picks and preferences here and there, but as you can see, is on Judgment Day, that video I did before, and this video now, and how we scored that fight, and what the numbers said, you know what I'm saying, we be talking that boxing. Thanks for tuning in here at BodyWorkBoxing, where we don't take things for face value. We do that body work.